Hey guys, this is Rodrigo from DJ-505 and today I'm reviewing the DJ-505 from Roland. The newest DJ controller from Roland came out together with the DJ-202 a few months ago, and this is kind of the middle of the road, the mid-level DJ controller from Roland in their controller range. It's a controller that sits in between the 202 and the 808. Both of them I already reviewed. You can find the reviews here on my channel. And the 505 is like a mix between the 202 and the 808. So it has only 2 channels compared to the 808 4 channels. But compared to the 202, it does have a TRS section on top of the controller. So you have a physical sequencer drum machine on top of your controller, which makes it quite a bit easier to use the sequencer and the drum part compared to the 202, where everything is integrated into the pads. And yes, which is a little bit harder because you don't see exactly, it's not really marked on the 202 how to activate and use the sequencer part or to sequence beats and so forth. Here it's a bit easier because everything is laid out. It misses some stuff from the 808, like the individual instrument faders that allow you to fade or to mute any instrument instantly with the faders. Here you don't have that. You have a mute knob though, so you can mute individual instruments anyway, but it's a little bit less intuitive than how you do it on the 808. You don't have any effects integrated into the mixer here, so you have to use the Serato effect. But on the other hand, the jog wheels are excellent. The build quality, we're going to talk about that in a second, is similar to the other 2 controllers. And it is really filled with features, and you pay around $700 for it. For that you get the controller, you get the drum sounds, you get Serato DJ unlock in the box, you get pitch and time expansion pack, you get the flip expansion pack. You get a lot of stuff in the box when you buy the 505 DJ controller. How good is it? It's pretty good. Build quality wise, it's plastic. It's plastic, it's all round plastics. There are no metal parts here, no metal faceplate and so forth, but it does feel very well built. Everything is screwed tightly on, even though everything is plastic, which makes it really light as well. So to carry around the 505, even though it's a big controller, it's a light controller, so it makes it easier to carry around. So good build quality, plastic feel, but still easy to carry around because of the limited weight. Let's dive into the controller and into the sequencing and drum machine parts, but we're gonna start first with the controller itself and see how it is to use with Serato DJ. So let's focus on the FX section of the DJ-505 and how that FX section works. And it works like any traditional FX section in a Serato DJ controller. You have some interesting stuff here and some unique stuff. I'll start on this side. You can assign the FX section to any of the 2 channels, but interestingly enough, you can also assign your FX section to the sampler. That's great. You can pretty much manipulate your drum sounds and your sequences through the FX section. That's really great to have and expands the creative possibilities of the controller. But if you keep it Serato, on the Serato side of things, then of course you have 3 effects, 3 knobs to control 3 effects at a time, and you just activate them easily. And you can activate 3 effects at one go and use the beats to manipulate the beats knob, to manipulate the size of the beats to be applied on the effect, and you can also easily shift between effects as expected. You have an FX mode, that's interesting. You have an FX mode. If you see it on the screen, you can see it on the screen. You can switch between having 3 effects at a time or simply one effect that has more advanced parameters. And when you switch to the single FX mode, your knobs become knobs that control those specific parameters of each specific effect. And that's a great thing to have if you prefer to have more control over one effect over 3 effects at a time. That's the effect section, pretty simple really. The jog wheel, is, as I said, I'm not going to repeat myself every time I review Roland controllers, I say the same thing. But this jog wheel is pretty much excellent. It's a very low latency, very nice to work with. Very nice to nudge with. A little down point or a little negative point is the limited capacity to spin. So I didn't upgrade to the latest firmware, but if you do, and you should, if you buy this controller, you should get something that allows you to set the backspin length of the jog wheel, which hopefully will give better backspins on this jog wheel, because the only way to do backspins now is you actually do them like this. That's one very minor critique, that the jog wheel is really tight and you have no tension adjust. It would make an absolute perfect jog wheel if it would have a tension adjust knob, like on many Pioneer controllers and media players, to be able to mechanically set the tension of the jog wheel. That would be perfect. So really good jog wheel as we are used to. Around the jog wheel you have some buttons that are interesting to mention. You have a sleep button. You know already what it does. It allows you to manipulate your track through the jog wheel or through the pads, and nothing changes. The track continues to play underneath without any problem. You have of course your key lock and your tempo range setting, and you have your shift and your deck switching buttons, because this is a 4 deck controller if you want. It only has 2 channels, but you can control 4 Serato decks through this controller. A touch strip would be easy to navigate around your track. It doesn't have that. That's fine. You can use other methods to go through your track anyway. If we move down to the bottom part of the deck, of course there you have your cue and your play button, which are plastic, but you know, they're really responsive, really nice to the touch, precise, as I said in any controller we have reviewed recently from Roland. You have your pads with high quality pads, really. They are really good, really responsive, color coded pads, RGB performance pads. You have all the typical Serato mode, hot cue, roll. And this is something different because this mode is linked to the sequencer and to the patterns. So I'm gonna go into that a little bit later. And your sampler, which allows you to manipulate samples and launch samples straight from the pads. That's really cool. And additionally, you can also sequence your samples. That I need to say as well. So I'm not going to demo it, but you can also sequence your sample through the sequencer. So you can basically, you're not limited to the drum sounds in the DJ-505. You also can use your own samples to sequence them, which gives you unlimited sounds that you can use in your sequences. That's really cool. So to really go quickly back to the functions, you have on the first level you have hot cue, roll, the TR and the sample. The roll is you know that. You have underneath the cue loop. So you also have your slicer. You have your pattern that I'm going to explain later, and you have your velocity setting. If you want to activate the pitch play mode, you have to click on Shift and Sampler.
Right about now. Right about now.
So this uses the pitch and play expansion pack from Serato DJ, which is in your in the box when you buy the DJ-505. To the right you have an independent loop section, which is pretty cool because it allows you to use the performance pads and the loop section independently. I prefer that to having all the loop stuff going through the performance section, to be honest. So you have your auto loop section, you have your loop section with an auto loop button that just triggers an automatic loop of the selected size. And then you have your manual loop buttons and your parameter buttons to switch around with different things. For example, your drum sounds and your patterns. You can select a next layer of patterns to activate from the pad with the parameter section, for example. I forgot about the pitch fader. Pitch fader is yeah, a bit mimicking the Pioneer DJ approach, up in the right corner. Pretty small but pretty sturdy, with a good center click feeling, so you know when you are in the center of your pitch fader. And of course not a full resolution pitch fader, a bit flimsy to the feeling, but rather okay. So if you are a huge fan of beat matching and you want the best possible pitch fader, then this is not your controller, but if you can settle for this, you'll be fine. Let's move to the mixer then. The mixer is a very spacious two-channel mixer with a 3-band EQ, which is set to full kill, a filter, a really expressive filter. I imagine you can change different parameters in the software. I've never tried it, but you could do that probably. Your cue buttons and decently weighted faders. They're decently weighted, so they're not too loose. A view meters, so you have your channel view meters and your master view meter, and a pretty loose crossfader with a lot of parameters that you can change on the front of the controller. Good crossfader. Decent line faders. What more can you ask? So everything really feels okay here. Then finally you have your center section of your mixer, your master level, of course, your booth level, because this controller has a booth monitor output, your cue and your master mix, and your sample level, which is pretty cool. You can set the level of your drum sounds and your sample individually from the rest in your output, and a cue also for the sample, for the sampler. That's pretty cool. On the front of the controller we have the volume for your phone, so you have a jack and a mini jack input for your headphones, crossfader, curve and reverse setting. And you also have your channel 1 and channel 2 switch to switch it from phono to line to PC, so that means to Serato DJ. Remains to be discussed is the completely separated sequencer section. And in the sequencer section of the DJ-505 you have a few things. Of course you have your step sequencer, 16-step sequencer that you can use to activate your patterns or to create new patterns. You have a little LCD screen that shows you relevant information of what you're actually doing, a shift button, a sync button to sync patterns with your tracks. You have also a few buttons here that are, for example, the scale button that allows you to change the scale of the sequencer from 8 until 32. I'll leave it at 16. You have a shuffle and a nudge to adapt the shuffle. First of all, to nudge, to be able to nudge your sequences, and a shuffle to give that little extra shuffle, to give that your patterns a little bit of your instruments a little bit more of a character. You have a mute button, and then you have a record button, instrument and a kit button, so to select an instrument or a kit, and the button to select the pattern, start, stop, and then here a few settings for each instrument, so level, attack, tune and decay. We will show that, how you can adapt those different sections. So it's very easy, it's fairly easy to use. You can find a lot of full explanation videos on how to sequence. This is not going to be the focus of this review. I'm just going to give you a few quick examples. So that's a sequence that is playing out, and I could basically start a new sequence and say, okay, I'm gonna clear this and I'm gonna record a new sequence. I press TR record and I can start recording. Then I have a bass drum going there. I want to switch instruments. I can select, for example, a snare drum. There we have a snare drum going. Put a hi-hat in. Going there, and let's add some open hi-hats, a little bit of flat, you get the idea. Now that I created a small sequence, I could actually try to sync that up with something here. That's a 124 beats per minute. If I hit the sync button here, I hit the sync button there. I have that going in sync. I can add effects. Only to the drum track. I can mute instruments if I want. And bring him up again. And stuff like that. So it's really easy to sync up, it works perfectly fine, and it allows you to do really cool creative stuff. What I can also do is to alter the different settings for the sound, and I do that through these little buttons, which works perfectly fine. And the last thing that I would quickly like to demonstrate is that you can go into TR mode and you can select your sound from here. And for example, if I have this pattern playing and I put myself in instant rec, I can add stuff from the pad. So like the more freestyle stuff, you hear it going up? So I can go completely crazy with this stuff. It's really, really amazing. Next thing I can do is to launch patterns from the pad. Switch. And so forth. So, in a nutshell, the DJ-505, great Serato DJ controller, great sequencer drum machine, excellent alternative for any semi-professional controller out there, and especially if you feel that the DJ-808 is too expensive and the DJ-202 is too limited in functionality. This is a nice, cool middle ground between the two. Let's go to the inputs and outputs before we close up. On the back of the DJ-505 we find a MIDI out port, so you can send MIDI signal to external gear and sync it up with the controller. You have the microphone input with the microphone sensibility button. You have the channel inputs for channel 1 and 2 with the grounding for your turntable. You have a master output in XLR, a master output in RCA, and a booth output in TRS. So finally, my conclusion on this controller is very positive. I think this is a great piece of kit. It brings actually sequencing and playing with drum machines to a public that is willing to spend 700 euros on it, and that finds, you know, the DJ-202 too limited. The DJ-202 is perfect for beginners that want to have a good functioning, excellent Serato DJ controller and could, you know, get into the drum sequencing part eventually and discover it. And this one is actually for those that, you know, or want to discover it with more possibilities, or already know how it works and want something compact that can be carried around easily. I can see the DJ-505 perfectly be part of a bigger rig, a more producer, performer kind of rig, for the performer that needs to DJ or DJs during their performance, but also wants to throw in some sequences, some drum sounds, and doesn't want to clutter too much their space. This is really ideal because it does all of that. You can DJ out of it, you can launch sequences, you can control other MIDI gear. It's perfect for all that. And I've almost forgot to say, actually, this is a hardware mixer. So this mixer, of course, I did kind of say, but I just want to emphasize it. You can connect turntables to it, you can connect media players to it without any problem. So you have independent hardware mixer built right in, all for the sum of around 700 euros, depending on where you buy it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my review, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click on the little bell icon so you get notification when I put up new videos, which happens really frequently now. I'm not gonna leave all those big gaps of weeks or even months between videos. Stuff will be coming to the channel really frequently, and I hope you'll be there to support us and to help us grow. Comment below what you like, what you disliked, what you expect in the future. Let me know how to improve this, and I promise you I'll read them all. I might not respond to them all, but I'll be reading all your comments and I'll be learning lessons from it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Peace out and see you next time.